The more you explain, the more uncertain you appear. The more you react, the more power slips from your hands. And the harder you try to prove your worth, the more obvious it becomes that someone managed to rattle your peace. In today's world, where noise is constant and everyone has something to say, silence is no longer passive. It's a calculated move. When your words are used against you, when your truth is twisted for drama, and when your emotions are bait for their amusement, this stops being communication. It becomes a game. And in that game, the louder you get, the more you've already lost. But here's the truth. You don't need to defend yourself to be right. You don't need to shout to be heard. You don't need to chase clarity to find peace. What you need is silence and time. Because when you go quiet, the universe starts speaking, karma begins its work. And while your mouth is closed, truth is already on its way back. A wise man doesn't stay silent out of fear. He does it to protect his energy, to preserve his dignity, and to let the weight of their actions collapse on its own. Silence isn't about saying nothing. It's about saying everything, without wasting a single word. They want you to flinch, to prove your innocence so they can twist it into guilt. That's the trap. If you react, you've already given them what they wanted. This is where Stoicism draws its boundary. As Marcus Aurelius said, if it is not true, do not say it. If it is not right, do not do it. That's all. No justifying, no chasing approval. You live by your values, not by their distorted version of your story. Because the truth doesn't rush. It endures. Lies spread fast, but they burn out. Truth takes time, but it doesn't need defense. It shows up when it's ready. Let me tell you about James. He was falsely accused at work. The whispers spread, and people stepped away. He felt the urge to defend himself, but he didn't. He stayed silent. He did his job. He let his integrity speak. Weeks later, the truth surfaced. The accuser had a history of manipulation, and James, because he never stooped to their level, walked away with his dignity intact. That's real strength, not in reacting, but in holding the line. So how do you respond when lies are told about you? First, trust the process. Lies are loud, but the truth is patient. Second, stay grounded in your values. When you're clear on who you are, outside noise loses its power. Third, let karma do what it does best. Those who thrive on lies eventually get tangled in them. Silence isn't surrender, it's self-respect. You're not hiding. You're rising, above the noise, above the games, above the lie. Let them talk. Let them twist. Let them spin their web. And when it all falls apart, the truth will be right where you left it, waiting. Betrayal cuts deep. It shifts the ground beneath you, often coming from those you once trusted. Friends, partners, even family. When it strikes, it feels like something inside collapses. Your first instinct is to confront, to ask why, to demand answers, to plead for understanding. But here's the harsh reality. People who betray you have already made peace with their choice. They've justified it in their own mind. Some don't see the damage they've caused. Others see it clearly and just don't care. And the more you search for closure, the more you reopen your own wounds. Betrayal isn't just about what they did. It's about how they feed off your pain, your reaction, your confusion. Why? Because your pain proves they mattered. Your chaos gives them significance. But what happens when you give them nothing? No anger, no revenge, no questions? Just silence? That's when they lose more than your voice. They lose access to your soul. Seneca once said, "A gem cannot be polished without friction, nor a man perfected without trials." Betrayal is that friction. It burns, but it also reveals. It strips away illusion, exposes what's real, and reminds you of one hard truth. Not everyone you love is meant to stay. Take Sarah. For over a decade, she shared everything with her closest friend, dreams, struggles, victories. Until one day, she discovered that same friend had betrayed her, leaking secrets and undermining her success out of jealousy. Sarah's first impulse was to confront, to unleash her hurt. But she didn't. She chose silence. No drama, no revenge, just a quiet walk away. The friend expected conflict, waited for the storm, but none came. And that absence, it echoed. Because silence has a weight words can't carry. It lingers. It haunts. So when betrayal finds you, and it will, remember this. Accept who they are. Don't fight for clarity from someone who gave you confusion. Let them live with the silence they created, not as punishment, but as proof that they lost someone who chose peace over war, dignity over drama. Clinging to who they used to be only keeps you trapped. That version of them, the one you trusted, is gone. And the more you hold on, the more pain you prolong. Don't waste your breath on someone who measured your worth in pencil, someone who erased you when it was convenient. You don't need to make them see what they chose to ignore. Instead, walk away without explanation, because silence forces them to sit with what they've done, and reflection is what betrayers avoid most. In the end, you didn't lose. They did. They lost someone loyal, real, and rare, and that kind of loss doesn't need revenge. It just needs your absence and your peace. Insults, they're cheap. That's why weak people use them. Whether it's sarcasm, passive aggression, or a direct jab, it's never about truth. It's about provocation. They want your reaction because your reaction proves they got to you. And the second you bite back, no matter how clever your comeback is, you've already lost control. But here's the truth most miss. You don't have to win the argument. You just have to refuse to enter it. Marcus Aurelius said, "The best revenge is not to be like your enemy." Read that again. When someone insults you, they're trying to drag you down into the mud, hoping you'll leave your dignity behind. But a Stoic stays grounded. He doesn't flinch. He doesn't fire back. He simply observes, calm, still, unbothered. Let me tell you about David. He just earned a well-deserved promotion. At the company event, a jealous coworker mocked him in front of everyone. Wow, I guess they're giving promotions to just anyone now. Every eye turned to David, waiting for the clapback. But he didn't argue. He didn't defend. He looked the man in the eyes, smiled, and said, "Nothing, pure silence, no drama, no ego." And in that moment, David didn't just win the room, he won the war. Because silence isn't weakness, it's command. It reminds us that not every accusation deserves an answer, and not every battle is worth fighting. When someone plays the victim while being the true manipulator, your response doesn't clarify. It empowers them. The moment you defend yourself against a lie carefully crafted to make you look like the aggressor, you've already walked into their trap. They cry, they twist the facts, they erase their wrongdoing, and suddenly you're explaining, defending, spiraling, while they sit back and watch the damage unfold. But here's the truth. You don't owe your truth to people committed to misunderstanding it, and you don't owe your peace to people who profit from disturbing it. What you owe is loyalty to yourself. When they twist the story, don't try to straighten it out. That's not your job. It's not a dialogue. It's a performance. And the only winning move is not to play. Let me tell you a story. There was a man, let's call him Aiden. He had a falling out with a close friend over a business disagreement. Nothing dramatic, just a mutual parting. But weeks later, Aiden began hearing rumors that he was a cheat, that he stole, that he ruined lives. The friend had crafted a perfect narrative, painting himself as the betrayed hero and Aiden as the villain. People turned. Whispers followed him. And Aiden? He said nothing. He didn't run around correcting every version of the story. He didn't defend himself in group chats or online forums. He stayed still, kept working, let his results speak. And over time, the cracks in the lie began to show. The friend contradicted himself. His bitterness leaked out. His victim mask slipped. And slowly people saw it. Aiden didn't win by arguing. He won by outlasting the performance. So how do you respond when someone weaponizes victimhood? First, don't feed it. Their power lies in your reaction. The moment you try to justify yourself to someone distorting the facts, you've already made their lie feel real. Second, document and detach. Know your truth privately, keep your proof quietly, and refuse to get dragged into a public trial by gossip. Third, let your actions disprove their words. Over time, character is louder than any accusation. Those who matter will see it. Those who don't never mattered. At the end of the day, you have nothing to prove to people invested in misunderstanding you. Your energy is too sacred for performances. Your silence is not an admission, it's a message. I see the game, and I refuse to play it. Because silence in the face of manipulation isn't weakness, it's mastery. And sometimes the most powerful way to end a lie is to starve it of your voice. Absence, the quiet withdrawal of your energy, your time, your loyalty. No accusations, no dramatic exit, just distance. And in that space, they begin to notice what they took for granted. Not because you begged them to, but because you stopped trying. You see, when you stop showing up, stop explaining, stop chasing, something shifts. The noise fades, the pattern breaks, and in that silence, they're forced to sit with the echo of everything you used to give them. That echo is louder than any confrontation could ever be. Let me tell you a story. There was a man, let's call him Elijah. He had a partner who began to grow distant, not abusive, not cruel, just absent. Missed texts, half-hearted responses, apathy where there used to be excitement. And Elijah, at first, fought for it. He asked, he reached out, he tried harder, but the more he gave, the less he was seen. Until one day he stopped. No speech, no anger, just space, and something strange happened. The partner, so used to Elijah's constant presence, suddenly felt the void, the silence, the absence of effort, and that absence spoke the truth. He was no longer begging to be chosen. So how do you handle being slowly erased? First, don't fight for a place in someone's life that they're erasing you from. If they wanted you there, you'd know. Second, understand that your silence can speak volumes, especially to those who stop listening to your words. And third, never measure your worth by someone else's recognition of it. Just because they don't see your value doesn't mean it's not there. It only means they were never capable of recognizing it. At the end of the day, attention is easy, respect is rare, and love without effort is just convenience. You deserve presence, not excuses. You deserve peace, not confusion. You deserve to be chosen, not tolerated. So when the world grows quiet around you, not because you're at peace, but because you're being quietly pushed aside, don't chase, don't explain, just rise, not with noise, but with absence. Because the most powerful goodbye is the one you never have to say out loud. You don't know what to do when the match doesn't light, because people who thrive on chaos are addicted to reaction. When you don't react, you cut off their supply. No defense, no drama, just stillness. And in that stillness, they're left alone with their own noise. That's when the game ends. So how do you master that kind of power? First, reframe the insult. It's not an attack, it's a reveal. They're showing you their weakness, their insecurity, their need to feel important by making someone else feel small. Let that sink in. Insults are confessions in disguise. Second, know this. Your silence isn't empty. It's full. Full of restraint, full of discipline, full of truth. Anyone can scream back. Only the strong can stay still. Third, remember that the world is watching, even when you think it isn't. In moments of tension, your reaction becomes your reputation. When you remain calm while others lose control, you don't just protect your peace, you build silent respect. Let me tell you another story. There was a woman, we'll call her Layla. She worked in a team where one colleague always had a problem. If someone succeeded, this person made a passive dig. If someone failed, they laughed under their breath. It was subtle, just enough to make you doubt yourself. And Layla? She used to take the bait. She'd respond, call it out, try to correct the narrative. But every time, it turned into a debate, and she always left feeling drained. Until one day she didn't respond. A snide comment came across the table, laced with venom. Layla just looked up, paused, smiled, not the fake kind, but the calm, knowing kind. And then she returned to her work. No tension, no reply. And something shifted. That coworker? They lost interest because Layla stopped feeding the performance. She reclaimed her peace, not by fighting, but by opting out. And the best part? People noticed, quietly, respectfully, because real strength whispers. It never shouts. This is the core of Stoicism, mastering the inner world when the outer one tests you. You don't win by overpowering others. You win by mastering yourself. Epictetus said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." So when someone tries to rattle you, don't give them what they're hoping for. Don't hand over your dignity to someone who hasn't earned your attention. Hold your ground, hold your calm, hold your silence. Because the loudest power in any room is the one that doesn't need to speak. And that's the person they'll never forget. Means knowing when to walk away, not out of pride, but out of principle. Because you can't build peace where chaos is worshipped. You can't teach worth to those who only understand absence. And you can't keep giving your all to people who measure your value by your silence, not your presence. So what do you do when they finally come back? You listen, but you don't return. You forgive, but you don't reopen the door. Because your growth isn't just about becoming better. It's about becoming wiser. And wisdom knows love that has to be earned again was never truly given. Respect that arrives too late isn't respect at all. It's regret in disguise. Let me tell you one last story. There was a woman named Talia, kind, loyal, present. She gave her best to everyone around her, family, friends, partner. Always the one who remembered, who reached out, who sacrificed. But slowly, something shifted. Her messages went unanswered. Her kindness was expected. Her presence became a given. She started to feel like a ghost in rooms she used to light up. So without warning, she pulled back. Not in anger, in clarity. She stopped texting first. She stopped over-explaining. She stopped showing up where she wasn't appreciated. And days passed, then weeks. The people who once leaned on her noticed. Some blamed her, some played the victim. But a few, just a few, truly realized what they'd lost. And those few changed. They came back not with guilt, but with gratitude. Because absence, when rooted in self-respect, teaches louder than presence ever could. That is the power of Stoicism. It isn't cold. It isn't distant. It's knowing your value so deeply that you no longer beg to be seen. It's knowing when to stay and when to go, not because of how others treat you, but because of what you've learned to no longer tolerate. Marcus Aurelius once said, "The best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury." So you rise, not to get even, but to get free. You walk away, not to hurt them, but to heal yourself. Because real peace isn't found in proving your worth. It's found in never needing to again. And sometimes the most powerful thing you can say is nothing at all. Let me tell you a story. There was a man, Jake, the kind of guy who checked in, remembered birthdays, always showed up. But one day he stopped. No calls, no messages, just silence. And suddenly, the people who once relied on him vanished. That's when he realized he wasn't valued. He was just convenient. So he left, quietly. And in that silence, he got his answer. So what do you do when your presence is overlooked? First, stop chasing. If they can't see your worth when you're there, let your absence teach them. Second, don't explain. Silence forces people to reflect. It echoes louder than any confrontation ever could. Third, watch who notices. The right ones will move closer. The rest were never meant to stay. You don't prove your worth by giving more. You prove it by walking away, calm, grounded, done. Now understand this. Some people provoke not because they're strong, but because your reaction feeds them. If they can pull your strings, they control you. And if you react, they win. So be still, unmoved, because your calm is your power. Let me give you another example. Adam had a toxic coworker who thrived on sarcasm. Adam used to fight back, until one day he didn't. He stayed calm, smiled, said nothing. The provocation stopped. Because even the most toxic fire dies without fuel. So next time someone stirs chaos, recognize the pattern, hold your frame, let your silence be your message. Not everything deserves your energy, and not every opponent is worth a response. The strongest person in the room isn't the loudest. It's the one no one can move because his silence is armor. And silence, it stings, especially when they realize what they lost. Too late. Let me tell you about Olivia. She gave everything, time, love, loyalty. Her partner got lazy, took her for granted. One day she left. No drama, no argument, just silence. He begged, apologized, promised change. But Olivia, she had already healed, and that silence became her freedom. So when someone regrets losing you, don't open the door just because they finally knocked. Don't soften the truth with closure. And don't explain your silence. Let it speak for you. They had access to you. They wasted it. Now let them sit with that truth, alone. Because silence isn't punishment. It's wisdom. It says that you don't get to walk in and out of my life and expect the door to stay open. In a world addicted to noise, silence is radical. When you fall silent, you take back your power. You let truth, time, and karma finish what you chose not to say. A stoic man doesn't chase, doesn't beg, doesn't react. He steps back and lets the universe restore balance. So when they lie, betray, insult, regret, don't respond, don't explain, just watch. Because karma doesn't need your help. It just needs your silence. If this message hits something in you, subscribe to Think Stoic 101, where strength is quiet, wisdom is sharp, and every word is built to last. And if someone you know needs to hear this, send it, share it, or let your silence echo it forward.